it takes a lot for me to actually start to collecting new artists. And this is because, I want to collect an artist over the years. I tend to like to collect in pairs, particularly for smaller works, because I find that when you look at a series of works, it's actually it's a story in continuum. One work is just one piece of that story. The core sort of theme of my collecting is really going deep, building a relationship with the artist and sort of collecting the artist over the years. My name is Kola Aina. I'm a Nigerian technology entrepreneur, angel investor, and now a venture capitalist. I love the arts. I support the arts. I guess I will be considered a patron of the arts. But most of all, I love to build relationships with artists and support their work. I started collecting art while I was in university. I tried to be a painter as a means to express my creativity. I wasn't very good at it, all right? So I produced some works, and I looked at the works myself and felt, if I can't be the best at painting, whatever best here means, then I would maybe instead follow people that paint and acquire things that I liked. Obviously, I didn't have a lot of money at the time. I was a student, and so I would go to yard sales and buy everything from artifacts to small sculptures to paintings. And these were all very sort of cheap things that I could afford as a student. When I finished university and started sort of making money, then I started to actually improve the kinds of things I would buy and attend, local exhibitions in the cities that I lived in the US. But I really think my collecting really accelerated when I moved to Nigeria. I would then visit the art markets in Abuja, for instance, where I lived at the time. I would go on Saturdays and just spend time in the market with the artists. Now, because I also was also a student of music, I also sort of was paying rapt attention to some of the folks whose music I enjoyed internationally that also were avid collectors, folks like Swiss Beats, who's sort of grown a really massive collection, was someone that I looked up to. At that time, Jay-Z had started to sort of drop references to his collection and works of art. And so all of these dots, both locally and internationally, were connecting as well. In terms of sort of, as that sort of evolved, I got close to folks in the art business, like folks like Denrile of the Raleigh Gallery, Kayode Adebola yourself, Tayo Dunsi, and a bunch of young collectors. And, we started spending time together and talking about the works. And all of these sort of people in different ways have enriched my appreciation for the arts, either from an aspirational standpoint or from the standpoint of sort of comparing notes and sort of increasing our affection for the arts. I remember the Young Art Collectors Club with fond memories. I mean, this must have been about 5-7 years ago. More like 7 years ago, where a number of us young collectors came together and felt there was a need to be more deliberate about sort of getting young people more engaged with the arts. And, we spent quite a bit of time thinking about this. The sort of mainstreaming of collecting affordable works by young people wasn't even where it is today. To a large extent, I think we were before our time. We definitely saw the future. And today I count a number of people in that group as my collector friends. But I think above all, one of the things that we really sought to achieve there, and I think in different ways we are actually doing that, is ensuring that there's a passing of the baton, between sort of the older generation of artists. Over the years, various individuals, whether they be dealers or gallerists or artists, have played a very important role in my collecting journey. I would even add, sort of art historians and administrators. You had the likes of Jeff, who ran Thought Pyramid in Abuja. Literally at that time, the only gallery that was in the city. The likes of Denrile, whose group exhibitions and works were very key sort of pillars in my own collecting journey. I remember the solo exhibition that she held for Victor Ikemano. And if you shift gears a little bit to the UK, for instance, then I developed a pretty good relationship with the art dealer and gallerist Ayo of the Tafeta Gallery in London. He's just been a remarkable part of my journey, my collecting journey, representing some of my favorite artists like Neo Lagunju, Babajide, and several other artists that I really enjoy, not just their works, but also their company. I must also mention the role that Dolly of Retro Africa has played in really stepping up. Very recently, she, at the Retro Africa in Abuja, held an exhibition for Ken Nwadiogo, who has this really unique blend of hyperrealism and abstract surrealism as well. So I think Dolly's, deserves a lot of recognition for really planting a flag post for the arts in Abuja. Any collector worth their salt would have faced challenges. One memorable one for me, for instance, again, I think it was a walk by Tayo Kwe that I loved so much, as that was part of this Tamba series exhibition that showed at the Raleigh Gallery. And I remember going to that exhibition with my wife, picked one of the works, and she didn't like it. She liked the work, but she felt it was a little too, I don't know if vulgar is the word, especially given the fact that we had, younger kids at the time. And I remember managing to convince her. When the work finally arrived, I assumed that I would manage the situation by having it installed in my office, my home office, and that it would be out of the way. But I recall that every time she would walk into the home office to maybe have a chat with me or whatever, she would always have this look on her face. She didn't have to tell me much. I found the solution to the work. But I think about that work very often. I like it, the artistry of it, the meaning behind the work, the part of living history, right? This question of his art being a documentation of history is also quite important. And for me, I think that richness of our collective history that they have, I think would serve them really well as they go into the future, being able to sort of realize that it's beyond you and it's beyond now, right? You are part of something greater. Ultimately, what I would love is that the works remain in the family, but are available for public consumption. One of my ultimate goals in collecting is using the works as a means to impact how people perceive value. My collecting today is really about documenting and preserving history, helping to shift the perception of value of people around me, because I think that helps to improve the quality of person that they can become, especially from a perception of value standpoint. It's a mission, it's a bit of a protest, it's an attempt to sort of shift society forward in my own little way.